just can't believe he's dead. It's terrible. But I just thank God that Elvis...
Elvis Presley died today. He was 42. Apparently it was a heart attack.
Thousands of fans from all over the country are converging on Graceland, trying to get in to view the body of the 42-year-old king of rock and roll.
Why go to all this trouble?
Because we love Elvis. We still do.
Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. A voice that changed music forever, a cultural icon and one of the most beloved entertainers of all time. But for nearly 5 decades, one question has haunted fans and conspiracy theorists alike. Is Elvis Presley really dead? On August 16, 1977, the world was shocked by the news that Elvis had died at the age of 42. The official cause of death was heart failure, later linked to years of prescription drug abuse. Graceland, his Memphis home, became a shrine overnight as fans around the world mourned the loss of a legend. But almost immediately, rumors began to spread. Some claimed they had seen Elvis alive after his supposed death. Others pointed out inconsistencies in reports from the hospital funeral home and even the official autopsy. Books, documentaries, and interviews have continued to fuel speculation. Was his death an elaborate hoax? Did he fake it to escape fame, financial trouble, or even threats against his life? Or is this just another celebrity conspiracy theory fueled by wishful thinking? To understand the mystery, we need to look at the key figures, the evidence, and the contradictions that have kept this story alive for almost 50 years. By 1977, Elvis Presley was a shadow of his former self. His legendary career, marked by record-breaking sales and sold-out concerts, was now overshadowed by health issues, addiction, and personal struggles. He was overweight, heavily reliant on prescription medications, and plagued by chronic pain. Friends and family members noticed that he was struggling both physically and emotionally. On the night of August 15, 1977, Elvis spent time with his fiancée, Ginger Alden, at Graceland. He played racquetball, took his usual mix of medications, and went to bed around 4 a.m. Hours later, Ginger found him unresponsive on the bathroom floor. Paramedics arrived at Graceland and rushed him to Baptist Memorial Hospital. Attempts to revive him failed, and at 3:30 p.m., Elvis Presley was pronounced dead. The funeral was held 2 days later, drawing thousands of fans to Memphis. His body was displayed in an open casket at Graceland, where close family, friends, and select fans paid their last respects. He was laid to rest next to his mother, Gladys, at the Meditation Garden in Graceland. For many, this was the tragic but inevitable end of a life filled with excess, pressure, and pain. But for others, something about the official story didn't add up. Reports surfaced of hospital staff claiming the body in the casket didn't look like Elvis. Some witnesses said his hands appeared too smooth, his sideburns seemed glued on, and his nose looked slightly different. Others swore they saw sweat on his forehead, something that shouldn't happen to an embalmed body. Then there was the death certificate. It listed his middle name as Aaron, but throughout his life, Elvis spelled it Aaron. A simple clerical error? Or a deliberate mistake? And so the theories began. If the official story wasn't the whole truth, then what really happened to Elvis Presley on August 16, 1977? In the weeks following Elvis Presley's death, the rumors started quietly. A whispered suspicion here, a curious observation there. But soon what seemed like isolated theories grew into something much larger, a full-blown mystery that refused to go away. One of the first major claims came from a Baptist Memorial Hospital nurse who allegedly saw the body brought in that day. According to some reports, she took one look and said, "That's not Elvis Presley." She was later asked to sign a government document swearing not to reveal what she saw. Then came the funeral inconsistencies. People who attended said Elvis's body didn't quite look right. His skin appeared waxy, his hands too smooth, his sideburns seemingly artificial. The rumor of a wax dummy in the casket began to spread. Even more bizarre, the weight of the casket itself became a point of discussion. It was reported to be 900 pounds, far heavier than a typical coffin. Some speculated that it contained a cooling system, something needed to preserve a wax figure. But if Elvis really faked his death, why would he do it? One theory suggests that Elvis was in trouble with the government. He had a known fascination with law enforcement, even receiving an honorary badge from the FBI. Some claim he had been working with the authorities to expose a high-level narcotics operation, which put his life in danger. His only way out? Disappear. Others believed that the pressure of fame had become unbearable. By the late 1970s, Elvis was deeply unhappy. He was physically and emotionally exhausted, and his health was rapidly declining. Could he have staged his death as a way to finally escape the life that had consumed him? In the years following 1977, these theories only gained momentum as Elvis sightings began popping up across the country. From gas stations to fast food restaurants, airports to back roads, people began reporting strange encounters with a man who looked eerily familiar. One of the most famous sightings occurred in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where a woman named Louise Welling claimed to have seen Elvis in a grocery store. She described him as wearing a blue jumpsuit, looking slightly older, but unmistakably Elvis. Then came a police report from 1979 where a Michigan officer stated that he had pulled over a man resembling Elvis sitting in the backseat of a police car. The officer's name? Mysteriously missing from records. In 1988, a man calling himself John Burroughs booked a flight from Memphis to Buenos Aires. John Burroughs was a known alias that Elvis often used when checking into hotels. Even celebrities have gotten involved in the mystery. Gloria Estefan once claimed that she received a phone call from someone who sounded exactly like Elvis while she was recovering from an accident in the hospital. The number was untraceable. And then there's Major Bill Smith, a former record producer who has long insisted that Elvis is alive and well. According to Smith, he has spoken to Elvis multiple times over the years and even co-wrote books with him under a secret identity. Despite all these stories, no concrete evidence has ever emerged to prove that Elvis is alive. But for the believers, the idea that he simply walked away from it all remains a possibility. As time went on, even more bizarre theories surfaced. Some claimed Elvis was in witness protection, hiding under a new identity. Others suggested he was living in seclusion on a private island. Some even believe he has returned as an Elvis impersonator, blending in with the thousands of others who pay tribute to him every day. The mystery remains unsolved, but one thing is certain. Elvis Presley, whether alive or not, has never truly left the building. After decades of speculation, books, documentaries, and alleged sightings, the question remains, did Elvis Presley fake his own death? Or is this just another celebrity myth fueled by wishful thinking? Let's examine the evidence. On one side, we have the inconsistencies. The suspicious-looking body in the casket, the hospital nurse who allegedly swore she saw someone else, the bizarre behavior of Elvis's stepbrother David Stanley, and the use of his known alias John Burroughs on flight records after his reported death. There's also the missing $1 million from his personal accounts, the blurred figures in supposed post-1977 photographs, and the eerie final words he spoke before his last concert, "We will meet again." On the other side, we have the official records, the autopsy, the death certificate, the accounts from close friends and family who saw his body, and the fact that no credible photographic, audio, or video evidence has ever surfaced proving that Elvis Presley is alive. Even forensic experts have debunked some of the more extreme theories. In 2002, DNA tests were reportedly conducted on an alleged sample of Elvis's hair, confirming it belonged to him. His medical history and years of prescription drug use also make it clear that by 1977, his health was in serious decline. Perhaps the biggest question of all is motive. If Elvis did fake his death, why hasn't he ever come back? He would now be in his late 80s, long past the pressures of fame, and yet no credible proof of his survival has ever surfaced. So, where does that leave us? The reality is that Elvis Presley's death, like his life, will always carry an air of mystery. For some, believing he is still alive is a way to hold on to his legacy. For others, the conspiracy is simply a product of a deep refusal to let go of an icon who meant so much to so many. But whether he is truly gone or not, one thing is undeniable. Elvis Presley never really left us. His music, his influence, and the legend of the King of Rock and Roll live on, immortal forever in the hearts of those who refuse to say goodbye. As the years passed, more voices emerged, people who claimed to have knowledge about Elvis Presley's disappearance that had never been made public. Some of these testimonies are chilling, others bizarre, but they all add fuel to the mystery. Deborah Wines, the police officer who knew too much. Deborah Wines, a Michigan police officer and member of the Presley Commission, has openly stated that she believes Elvis Presley is alive. In 1994, the Presley Commission, a private investigative group dedicated to uncovering the truth, compiled what they claimed was the most definitive evidence, yet proving that Elvis faked his death. I have personally seen documents that suggest Elvis had no choice but to disappear. Deborah Wine said in an interview, "The man had threats on his life. This wasn't about running from fame, it was survival." Deborah and her colleagues pointed to government records indicating that Elvis was involved in a major FBI sting operation against high-level criminals in Las Vegas. The idea is that Elvis was about to become a key witness in an organized crime investigation, and for his own safety, he was placed in the Witness Protection Program. The nurse's secret, a deathbed confession. One of the most shocking revelations came from a former nurse at Baptist Memorial Hospital where Elvis was officially pronounced dead. She allegedly confessed on her deathbed that the body that arrived at the hospital on August 16, 1977 was not Elvis Presley. "It wasn't him," she whispered to her son before passing away. "I don't know who it was, but it wasn't Elvis. We were told to keep quiet. We were given papers to sign. I lived my whole life with this secret and I can't take it with me." Her son, who has chosen to remain anonymous, claims that he has tried to get her story out to the public, but every time he speaks to major media outlets, they refuse to publish it. Monty Wayne Nicholson, the detective who can't let go. Monty Wayne Nicholson, a Los Angeles sheriff's detective, has been investigating the case for over 40 years. He believes there is enough circumstantial evidence to suggest a cover-up, but also acknowledges that no one has provided concrete proof that Elvis is alive. "I have seen cases where people have faked their deaths," Nicholson said. "It is entirely possible. But without exhuming the body, we may never get a definitive answer." Nicholson has repeatedly called for an exhumation of Elvis's body, arguing that a DNA test could prove once and for all whether the king is really buried at Graceland. But to this day, his requests have been denied. Major Bill Smith, I Speak to Elvis. Perhaps the most controversial voice in the conspiracy is Major Bill Smith, a record producer and former friend of Elvis. Smith has insisted for years that Elvis is alive and claims to have spoken to him multiple times since 1977. "People laugh at me. They call me crazy," Smith said in an interview. "I don't care. I know the truth. Elvis is alive. He's out there. And when he's ready, he'll come back." Smith claims to possess recordings of Elvis speaking in recent years, but critics argue that in the digital age, anyone can fake a voice recording. Despite his bold statements, Smith has never provided proof that satisfies skeptics. For every person who believes Elvis faked his death, there is someone who is just as convinced that he died that day in August 1977. The official records say Elvis Presley passed away at Graceland, the victim of a life of excess, addiction, and declining health. His funeral was attended by thousands, his body buried in the meditation garden beside his mother. And yet the questions remain. Why was his name spelled Aaron on the death certificate, when Elvis himself used Aaron his entire life? Why did some witnesses claim the body in the casket looked like a wax figure? Why did so many people, from nurses to police officers, report seeing someone other than Elvis at the hospital that day? Why did reports of Elvis sightings begin almost immediately after his death? The most logical explanation is that Elvis Presley truly died on August 16, 1977, but the public's refusal to let go of their idol fueled decades of speculation. Fans couldn't accept that the king of rock and roll was gone, so they kept him alive in myth and legend. But there is another possibility. A possibility that the greatest entertainer in history pulled off the greatest disappearing act of all time. And if that's true, then somewhere out there, Elvis Presley might still be watching. In the end, this mystery will never be solved, because the legend of Elvis Presley is too big, too powerful, to ever truly die. So, what do you believe? Did the king of rock and roll leave us in 1977, or did he simply leave the building for good? Do you think Elvis Presley is alive, or is this just another wild conspiracy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's get this discussion going. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the mystery of Elvis Presley, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe for more mind-blowing investigations, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video.